democracy is not for sale, that we must overturn Citizens United, and we must return this government to the people. And that's why I wanted to be here with my friend Bernie Sanders. Come on out, Bernie. Come on, Bernie. Come on, Bernie. We gotta get him.
Thank you. Let me, on this beautiful spring evening, let me thank all of you for coming out. It's a great turnout. Let me thank Our Revolution for helping to organize the event. We thank Paul Feeney and Pablo Ruiz and Ashley Delver and Erica Scott Pacheco and Katura Brewster and Reverend Andy Belmer and Jose Palmer and Rand Wilson for all of their extraordinary remarks, giving us the reality of what's going on in America today. Thank you all. And let me thank the people of Massachusetts for sending Elizabeth Warren to the United States Senate. You can tell the quality of a person by the enemies she makes. And to her credit, Elizabeth Warren has made some wonderful enemies. And those folks, the people on Wall Street, and the people in the insurance industry, and the people in the pharmaceutical industry, and the people in the fossil fuel industry, they want to make sure that Elizabeth does not come back to the Senate. Our job is to make sure not only that she wins, but that she wins big. That's your job. Let's do it. Brothers and sisters, we are engaged in a war tonight of monumental proportions. And what that war is about is that the top 1%, the billionaire class, people who have more wealth and income that they will be able to spend in a dozen lifetimes, they are not satisfied. They want even more. Their greed is destroying this country, and tonight we tell them enough is enough. What our job is to bring our people together. Working people, people in the middle class, young people, old people, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American. And together we are going to tell Mr. Trump and his friends, sorry, you are not going to divide us up. We are going to stand together. We're going to take you on. And not only are we going to take your ugly proposals on, we are going to go forward. We're going to transform this country. We're going to create an economy and a government which works for all of us, not just the 1%. Now, what the rigged economy is about, that Elizabeth Warren talks about, that I talk about, and at least one or two other people in Congress might mention, is an economy in which in the last 35 years we have seen a massive transfer of wealth. Now, my Republican colleagues, they get very nervous when we talk about redistributing wealth. They get nervous when we talk about taking from the rich and helping the middle class, but they got no problem when in the last 37, 38 years, trillions of dollars have left the pockets of working people and have gone to the top 1%. So we are telling them tonight and into the future, those days are over. You're going to stop ripping off the working families of this country. We have not only an economic crisis in terms of this grotesque level of wealth and income inequality, we have a profound moral crisis. As a nation, we have got to ask ourselves, is it acceptable that the top 1/10 of 1%, 1/10 of 1%, now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%? Is it acceptable that one family, the Walton family, and by the way, the Walton family, because so many of their employees in Walmart are on food stamps or in Medicaid or subsidized housing. Walton family, the wealthiest family in America, is also the largest welfare recipient. So we say to this Walton family, the wealthiest family, get off of welfare, start paying your workers a living wage. And when we look at a rigged economy, it is not only this grotesque distribution of wealth, it is also an unfair distribution of income. Today in Boston, today in Burlington, Vermont, you got people who are working not one job, they're working 2 jobs, they're working 3 jobs. Today in America, as a result of the collapse of the American middle class, you have millions of people working 50 or 60 hours a week in order to put food on the table for their kids. In fact, we work some of the longest hours of any people in the industrialized world. Mom is out working, dad's working, the kids are out working. But at the end of the day, 52% of all new income is going to the top 1%. Our job, brothers and sisters, is to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the billionaire class. Running for president gave me the opportunity and the privilege of going all over this country. And I want to thank the many of you here for the support you gave me. Running for president took me to Detroit, Michigan, where I sat in a room with young workers, mostly African American, who were making $7.25 an hour, working at Walmart's, and they couldn't even get 40 hours a week. They had to work 20 hours here, 20 hours there, 20 hours there. And what I learned then is that 7.25 is a starvation wage. We're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. And in the campaign, from coast to coast, I talked to parents and single moms who are working so hard to improve life for their kids. And you talk to a single mom who's maybe doing okay. She's making $35,000, $40,000, $45,000 a year. But in order to find quality child care for her little one, she has to spend $10,000 or $15,000 a year. Now, how in God's name can you afford to spend $15,000 a year on child care when you're making $40,000 a year? Every psychologist who studies the issue understands that the most important years of a human being's life are 0 to 4. Those are the years in which children develop intellectually and emotionally. So I don't want to hear any more talk about family values from my Republican colleagues. Until we pass universal, affordable child care for every family in this country. This is the year 2017, and you know what? Women should not be earning 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Equal pay for equal work. When we talk about a collapsing American middle class, what we are talking about is the fact that 100 years ago, workers in Boston, throughout this country, they were out on the streets. And you know what they were saying? They were saying, we are human beings. We are not beasts of burden. We do not want to work and work and work. We want leisure time. We want time for our families. We want time for education. We want time for vacation. 100 years have come and gone. Technology has exploded so that every worker here tonight is far more productive, producing a lot more than workers did years ago. And yet today, 100 years after workers demanded a 40-hour work week, the average worker is working 46 hours a week, and millions of people are working 50 or 60 hours a week. There are people in Boston, people in Vermont, people all over this country who have jobs that do not guarantee them any vacation time. That is going to change. We want an economy that works for people, not an economy in which people are forced to give up their humanity, to sacrifice their kids in order to make a living. As Elizabeth mentioned a moment ago, we live in a highly competitive global economy. It is virtually insane for any person in this country who loves this country, who is concerned about the future of this country, not to be absolutely outraged by the fact that today, hundreds of thousands of bright young kids, kids who did well in high school, kids who want to go to college, they are unable to do so because of the income of their families. And then on top of that, we have millions of people who have graduated college, $50,000, $60,000 in debt, graduated graduate school, medical school, dental school, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, are spending decades paying off those debts, can't buy a home, can't have kids, they're paying off those debts. Our job is to encourage our people to get the best education they can, not punish them for doing that. And that is why on Monday, with many, many students from all over the country, I will be introducing legislation to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and and legislation, same legislation will substantially reduce student debt, something that Elizabeth and I have both been working on. Now, people say, well, Bernie, it's an expensive proposition. You want to make public colleges and universities tuition-free. You want to lower student debt. It costs a lot of money, and it's true. It does. How are we going to pay for it? I will tell you exactly and gleefully how we're going to pay for it. We're going to put a tax on Wall Street speculation. And when we make public colleges and universities tuition-free, it not only helps, obviously, the people in college and the people who've graduated, it does something perhaps even more importantly. I grew up in a family, my parents never went to college. And the people we associated with, my family associated, they never went to college. And all over this country today, you have kids growing up in poverty, working class kids. They don't know anybody who went to college. What I want is for every kid in this country in the 6th grade, I want for their parents, I want their teachers to know that if those kids do well in the 6th grade and the 8th grade and in college and in high school, yes, regardless of their incomes, they will be able to get a college education and make it into the middle class. That is revolutionary. Elizabeth is exactly right when she says we defeated this disastrous, disgusting Republican Trump-Ryan healthcare proposal because millions of people stood up. They went to town meetings, they went to rallies in Boston, in Burlington, all over this country. They bombarded the phone lines of my colleagues in Washington. These guys couldn't do business. The phone lines were so... And some of you may have seen on TV these town meetings. Republicans hold town meetings, and usually they would have, 40, 50 people coming, talking about how you got to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. Suddenly they opened the door and 1,000 people were there. And they weren't there to talk about repealing the Affordable Care Act. A man gets up, I can't remember where it was, and this guy says, and he looks at the congressman, and he says, if you repeal the Affordable Care Act, my wife is going to die, and I am not going to allow you to do that. So don't kid yourself. No matter what they will tell you in the media or on television, the reason that we prevented them from repealing the Affordable Care Act is because all over this country we stood up and we fought back. But our job is not just to prevent the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, and it is not just to improve the Affordable Care Act, which in fact has many problems. Deductibles are too high, co-payments are too high. Cost of prescription drugs are too high. Too many people don't have access to primary care. Our job is to join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all people as a right. And our job, and I'm going to introduce this legislation within the month, is to pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. Please don't tell me that if Canada can guarantee health care to all of their people at about half the cost per capita, if the United Kingdom can guarantee health care to all of their people, if Germany can do it, and Denmark, and Holland, and Sweden, if every major country on earth guarantees health care to all people and costs a fraction per capita of what we spend, don't tell me that in the United States of America, we cannot do that. The Republican Party and Mr. Trump, they have a brilliant idea regarding tax reform. They think that the rich are not rich enough. They want to provide, at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks for the top 1%. At a time when major corporations, in some cases, do not pay a nickel in federal income tax because they stash their profits in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda and other tax havens, they think these corporations need even more tax breaks. Well, we have a slightly different perspective. And our point of view is that billionaires like Donald Trump should start paying their fair share of taxes. In case you forgot, there was an election in November, and Donald Trump won. And I want to say a word about that. I want to say a word about that. And not everybody here will agree with me, but I want to tell you what I think. Some people think that the people who voted for Trump are racists and sexists and homophobes and just deplorable folks. I don't agree. I don't agree, because I've been there. Let me tell you something else that some of you may not agree with. And that is, it wasn't that Donald Trump won the election, it was that the Democratic Party lost the election. And let us understand what's going on. It's not just the White House that they won. They control the United States Senate. They control the United States House. They control almost 2/3 of governors' chairs. And in the last 8 years, Democrats have lost 900 legislative seats all over this country. Now, this is what we have got to put on the table, and we got to ask ourselves, how does it happen when we are competing against a right-wing extremist party who has an agenda that most Americans soundly and roundly disagree with, an agenda that wants to give tax breaks to billionaires, cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, doesn't believe in climate change, doesn't believe in pay equity for women? How in God's name do they win elections? And the reason is, in my view, that the time is long overdue for a fundamental restructuring of the Democratic Party. We need a Democratic Party which is not the party of the liberal elite, but a party of the working class of this country. We need a party which is a grassroots party, a party where candidates are talking to working people, not spending their time raising money from the wealthy and the powerful. And when we do that, when we transform the Democratic Party, we transform America, because on every, and this is an important point, on every major point facing this country, the American people do not believe in a right-wing agenda. They believe in a progressive agenda. We got to take that agenda to the people. The American people believe overwhelmingly we raise the minimum wage to a living wage. They believe in pay equity for women. They believe in rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. They believe in a trade policy that works for workers and not just CEOs. They believe in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel. They believe in fixing a broken criminal justice system, a system that has more people in jail, disproportionately African American, Latino, Native American, than any country on earth. Our job, our policy has got to be to create jobs for our young people, not more jails, not more detention centers. And the American people do not believe that we should be throwing millions of undocumented people out of this country, people who have been here for years, working hard, raising their kids. The American people believe in comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship. So we have got to get our hands dirty. We got to get out on the streets. We got to be knocking on doors. We got to be registering people, many of whom have given up in the political process. And by the way, the Democratic Party cannot any longer afford to be a party of New England, a party of the West Coast. We got to be a 50-state party. I want you to think about something for a moment. Just think about how absurd where we are is. In Kentucky, a state that benefited as much as any other state through the Affordable Care Act, where hundreds of thousands of people, sometimes for the first time in their life, got health insurance. The leader of the Republican Party in Washington is working overtime to try to take away that health insurance from his own people. And the other senator, Rand Paul, thinks that Mitch McConnell hasn't gone far enough. Now, how do they get away with that stuff? They get away with that stuff because A, they think nobody knows what's going on, the media doesn't report it, and B, more importantly, they believe that the Democrats offer no opposition. They could do any damn thing they want to do. Well, our job is to start providing that opposition in Kentucky, in Mississippi, in Alabama. And they're going to have to look in the eyes and meet those people at the polling booths who they think they can throw off of health care or not raise the minimum wage or not provide decent jobs to their people. That's what we have to do, coast to coast. So our job is, A, we've got to beat back this incredible reactionary agenda, an agenda developed by people like the Koch brothers, an agenda which is accelerated by this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And we're going to rally the American people, and we're going to say, no, we're not going to spend $80 billion more on the military when you cut programs for children or the elderly and the poor. But what we also have got to do is not just play defense. You don't win games playing defense. We got to add on the offense. And we have to have a vision that appeals to people, and with people stand up and fight the greed of the 1% and of corporate America and of Wall Street. And that vision is, we're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. We're going to have pay equity for women. We're going to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and create 13 million decent-paying jobs. We're going to have trade policies that benefit workers and not just the wealthy. We're going to create jobs by transforming our energy system from fossil fuel to solar and wind and geothermal. We're not going to be firing teachers. We're going to be hiring teachers. Trump and his billionaire friends are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. That's our agenda, and that is an agenda that will appeal to people from Kentucky to California to Massachusetts. All right. So our job, it seems to me, is to get involved in the political process in a way that we have never been involved before. Despair is not an option. And I have not the slightest doubt, that when we stand up and we educate and when we organize and when we grow the union movement, when we stand together, it's not going to be a victory for us, it's going to be a rout. I understand well that they got the money, and you're going to see that money pouring into Massachusetts against Elizabeth and other progressives. And that's going to be going on all over the country. Yeah, they got the money. But we have the people. And our job is to organize those people. And when we do that, and brothers and sisters, we can, when we do that, we are going to create the nation that all of us know that we can become. We can do it. Thank you all very much.